Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Welcome today to a slightly longer than usual preamble. I suggest therefore maybe you grab yourself a cup of tea and a biscuit and settle in. Either that or just skip ahead 5 minutes. Let's be honest, I'll never know what you decide to do, will I? I just feel a bit of extra context is required in a couple of different areas today before I flip the camera and get into the top-down review style footage. Especially as I intend to perform a Jedi mind trick on all of you. With your compliance though, rather unusually, I'm going to ask for your permission to do just that. I'm sure you noticed from the video title and the thumbnail today, this is a review of the Davosa Ternos USA Limited Edition. I'm sure you noticed from the thumbnail particularly that this is a Rolex Submariner homage. Clone, facsimile, copy, homage, refer to it what you will. It's a watch that tries to mimic the look and feel of a Rolex but with a different brand name on the dial. It is not a fake, it is not trying to convince you or anybody else that you own a Rolex, but it is a pretty much one-for-one copy of a Rolex design. I have no problem at all with that style of watch. Indeed, I think a cheap Rolex Submariner clone is a great place to start your watch collecting journey. You can decide whether you go up, down, left, right. From there, quite often people will decide that there's a reason these watches are so iconic and so popular, and they'll stick with a Rolex Submariner homage. They'll just buy a slightly better one than they started with, and that's where the likes of Davosa comes in. Indeed, one of my most popular videos is Rolex versus homages. I made it about 2 years ago now. I gathered a bunch of looky-likeys from $50 to $1,000. I looked at the L'Oreal, the Invicta, the Phoebus, the Squally and the Junot, and I compared them to the Rolex Submariner, the OG, just to see how much of the look and feel you got at each of the various price points. Now at that time I said there were two brands notable by their absence. One was Steinhardt, and I managed to review a Steiny late last year. The second was Davosa. They've got a reputation for making high quality sub homages, so I'm glad to be able to tick that box finally today. To be clear, this watch was sent to me for free by Davosa USA. I don't have to send it back. You will therefore find a link in the description of the video to the Davosa USA website, where you will see this watch listed and available for sale for $1,250. I cannot hand on heart recommend that you buy this watch for $1,250, especially not when a brief Google search, the first page of Google, will show you the watch for sale at retailers for $999 US. That is a chunk of money off. I've no idea why manufacturers allow themselves to be undercut so badly by retailers, but that's another story. However, I cannot hand on heart recommend that you buy this watch for $999 US either. I just don't see a grand in this one today. It's nicely done, it's nicely finished, it's nicely machined, the bracelet's good, it's got a Swiss movement, it's Swiss made, but I just don't see a grand in it. And this is where the Jedi mind trick comes in. Davosa also sell the regular model Ternos, black dial, blue dial, green dial, various strap options as well. These come in at what I think is a more reasonable $750 if you buy them from a retailer. I think that's a much more reasonable and realistic price tag for what is on offer today. So if you've had a good think about it, and if you're happy spending a decent amount of money on a Rolex Submariner homage and you're settled on the Davosa, I'm going to show you the Ternos USA Special Edition, but I want you to imagine that I'm showing you one of the more cheaper models instead. That's the Jedi mind trick today. Alright Jody, enough waffle, let's flip the camera and get on with the review. Indeed, let's get on with it. If you're just rejoining me at this point, if you skipped ahead 5 minutes, I basically said homages are cool, this Davosa is a little bit expensive, but there may well be value for you elsewhere in the Davosa range if you do want to spend a decent amount of coin on a homage. I'm just not sure where they get $1,250 from this one though. Certainly not in the design. A Rolex clone is a Rolex clone is a Rolex clone. This one, there's a few different elements here. There's a Jubilee, there's a different dial and so on, but it's still pretty much 100% Rolex. I reckon they spent a bit of money on the packaging though. I always get really nervous when I see a high gloss piano black finish box of this size, because invariably it contains a watch that doesn't quite justify the price that they're asking, and so it is in this case as well. It is not a bad watch, don't get me wrong. It's a bit of a looker. I do love the James Cameron-esque blue-black fade dial here. It's on a Jubilee. There's some other nice touches, but I'd be much happier recommending a Davosa at $750 than $1250. So a couple of different options. I've got it on the Jubilee at the moment. There is an Oyster bracelet as well. I will show you both of those in close-up a little later on. Nice little Davosa branded spring bar tool here, and a secret hatch. Always nice when the box has a secret hatch. You've got a 2-year warranty and a kind of certificate of authenticity here. As I said, this is a limited edition, which I guess you pay a little bit more money for, but a limited edition original of a clone, you know what I mean. It's a little bit hokey when you think too deeply about it. The dimensions today are not going to surprise anyone, given that they are rather prescribed by the watch upon which this one is based, the Rolex Submariner. So 40mm in diameter, 12mm thick, 48mm lug to lug, 20mm lug width. No wonder these things are so popular. That set of dimensions is classic. It wears so well on such a different variety of wrist sizes. Good taper on this Jubilee. One of the reasons why I've got it in the Jubilee and not the Oyster. Tapering down to 16, back up to 18 at the clasp. Sized up for me, bang in that sweet spot, 147 grams. So 316L stainless steel case, crown, bezel and full stainless steel bracelet. We've got solid links, solid end links, and it's a proper Jubilee, so all of these move independently of each other. Screw links here and a nice, if slightly unspectacular clasp. 4 levels of micro adjust and is a proper mill clasp. They haven't gone, fools you know, they haven't gone for a copy glide lock system here. Happy with just a kind of standard one. 200 meters of water resistance, screw down crown, screw down case back. I'll show you the case back in just a minute. There is the Statue of Liberty denoting this one as being a limited edition. Case finishing again mimics the Rolex. High polish on the side, brushed on the lugs. Now the crown here is larger than you would get on a roller though. Little Davosa symbol there, the star. Nice and easy to grip as a consequence, and like I said, it is screw down. The bezel has a ceramic insert, fully loomed ceramic insert. I'll put the loom video in now. This one appeared in Loom Wars episode 5 about a month or so ago. It got knocked out though in the quarterfinals by another Submariner clone by Mark and Son. The loom is okay, but again, not really anything spectacular considering the price they are asking for these ones. The bezel itself is 120 click unidirectional. The action is pretty good. There's no backplay there, no bounce, and everything thankfully lines up nicely. Zoomed in on the dial and that blue-black fade with the little one line of green text they're advertising that this is a Ternos USA is pure Rolex James Cameron Deep Sea Dweller, but that is no bad thing. No Cyclops on this one either. Another little point of difference, just moving this to one side from the average run-of-the-mill sub-clone. It also doesn't share the newer Submariner's maxi indices with just the slightly smaller triangle at 12, batons at 6 and 9, circular indices everywhere else, and just a printed frame around the date complication there at the 3 o'clock. Swiss made either side of the index at 6 and minute markers around the outer edges. All pure Rolex, as are the hands. Basic set of flat Mercedes hands with the lollipop second hand. No surprises here whatsoever. And the Jubilee is a nice one. So there's a bit of James Cameron Deep Sea Dweller on the dial. This perhaps more akin to the bracelet found on the GMT Master 2 or a Date Just perhaps. Either way, it's nicely done. Satinized brush on the outer links, fully articulated high polished mid links and screws. Like I said, the clasp is alright. Davosa etched into that high polished shiny fold over there. Chamfered edge for micro adjusts and it is milled. You don't get a diver's extension on this one though, but you do with the Oyster. Et voila. I did note that on the Davosa website they of course don't refer to these bracelets as Oyster and Jubilee. They refer to them as Trialink and Pentalink. How ironic is that? You can completely rip off the design of the watch and that's fine, but if you use the copywritten terms that Rolex have for their bracelets, they'll sue ya. Popping a link to show you the Statue of Liberty on there, USA exclusive and a limited edition. This is number 133 out of 200. Screw down 200 meters like I said, and the usual spec sheet there. Now, Swiss automatic movement, no surprises, it's an ETA 2824-2. That is, of course, a well-known and well-loved 25 jewel hacking and hand-winding high beat 4 Hz automatic. If you got one running with this set of stats, Great amplitude, minimal beat error, and very, very low variance, just slightly to the positive. That's really what you want out of a daily. And they just wear so well, this style of watch. I've got a 7-inch wrist, which is just about average. This kind of 40-20 stainless steel bracelet, 150 grams, is pretty much the optimum for me, which is why they're so bloody popular, these things. Now, legibility is still excellent in spite of the fact that it has the older, slightly smaller style indices on the dial, and that blue-black fade really does look pretty good, doesn't it? And same when you get this one outside. That is obviously a piece of flat sapphire with anti-reflective undercoating, which you don't get from a Rolex. All that money, and they still don't put anti-reflective undercoating on the sapphire of their sports watches. On wrist, just a little bit of downturn from that mid case helps it sit nicely on me. 12mm is pretty slim. A lot of sub-clones using cheaper movements. The NH35, for example, tend to be 13 and a half, so this one wears well. And the Jubilee, like I said, is a good one. I do appreciate a nice dube, and this is a nice dube. But overall, I'm not convinced I've got a grand's worth in my hand, let alone $1,250 worth. The lume isn't quite up to snuff today. The handset's very, very basic. And given the fact that the indexes are small, I feel that bezel looks a little bit disproportionate. The numerals there are too big. The whole thing is slightly unbalanced. Do bear in mind, if you go for one of the cheaper models, I believe it's an aluminium insert with a lume pip, more akin to the original sub, but I would still be more inclined to recommend one of those to you than this one. It's not a bad watch, it's just not a great watch at the price that they're asking for it. So there you have it, the Davosa Ternos USA Limited Edition. Undoubtedly the one and only watch that I will ever receive from Davosa, but that's okay. I just don't see where $1,250 has gone on this one. However, if you are okay with a sub homage, I reckon one of their $750 models, that is about reasonable for what is on offer today. It is definitely one of the better sub clones that I've looked at on the channel to date. Definitely better than the Squally 1545, which comes in at about $600 US. I just don't see that that blue-black dial and a limited edition Statue of Liberty caseback is justifying another $500 US on top. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in a future video.